welcome back to this channel, OHL in 20. This is where we break down all 20 OHL teams, including stats, player predictions, trades, and much more. In this video, we are going to recap day number 3 of the preseason, which happened on Sunday, September 1st. There were a bunch of games that happened, so let's just recap of who played, who won the games, and then we'll do a little bit more of a breakdown of each individual game. So on Sunday, to start the day off, we had the Erie Otters who defeated the Saginaw Spirit with a score of 10-6. Wow, that was a dominating performance by both sides. But the Erie Otters, they defeated the Memorial Cup champion Saginaw Spirit 10-6. Just below that game, we had the rivals of Ottawa and Kingston. The Kingston Frontenacs defeated the Ottawa 67s at home 5-1. Just below, we had the Brampton Steelheads, who played their first game ever back in Brampton after their former team, the Battalion, left to North Bay. So Brampton, they were back on the ice, but they lost to the Guelph Storm 6-4. Next up, we had the Peterborough Petes and the Niagara Ice Dogs. They clashed between one another in Port Hope for this preseason game. This was a scoring festival as the Peterborough Petes defeated the Niagara Ice Dogs in a shootout with a score of 8-7. The rivals of Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury faced off against each other yesterday afternoon as the Greyhounds, well, they took the first victory as they defeated the Wolves with a score of 5-2. And then last but not least, we can't forget about the game that happened to finish off the day. It was the Kitchener Rangers for the third consecutive game in a row in preseason, winning in a shootout. And this time it was over the Brantford Bulldogs. So overall, all of these games having multiple goals. And well, let's break it down and see what actually occurred in these games. Now, unfortunately for OHL fans, the only way to watch these games were actually at the games. So there were no televised broadcast events for any of these streams. I believe the Peterborough Petes actually did post the game on their Facebook page as they were having technical issues to live stream it on Facebook. But other than that, every game, no highlights, no video coverage, unfortunately. Again, this is just preseason, so we're going to expect a lot more going into the regular season. But let's break down of what actually occurred for all of these matchups. Let's start with the reigning Erie Otters as they defeated the Memorial Cup champion Saginaw Spirit in Kitchener with a score of 10-6. The Otters, they rebounded, giving up 10 goals on Saturday. Well, after Erie lost to Brantford 10-5, well, they scored 10 goals of their own after defeating the Saginaw Spirit with 10 goals of their own, defeating them 10-6. We can't forget that Martin Mizak, Andre Molnar, and rookie Jack Clark, they all led the way, scoring 2 goals apiece for these Erie Otters against the Saginaw Spirit. Well, Anaheim Ducks prospect Kerry Terrence, he finished with a goal and 2 helpers while newly signed defenseman Keegan Knight. He also had 2 assists. And can you believe this? The Erie Otters, they were down 5-1, and then they drawed right back, winning this game over Saginaw 10-6. I can only imagine what the atmosphere was like in Kitchener for this game. Nick Sima and Jacob Coulter both scored twice for Saginaw, while defenseman James Duo had 3 assists. Charlie Burns, we can't forget about this dominating performance that he had for the Erie Otters in net. He stopped 42 of 48 shots to lead Erie to that victory over Saginaw. So just a tremendous performance by Charlie Burns. Obviously, we've seen save after save over the past couple of preseasons for Charlie already. So we're going to have to keep a close eye out for this guy going forward. And Saginaw, well, they outshot Erie 48-33, and they went 3 for 5 on the power play, even though they lost the game. So again, it's just one of those things where one team is probably going to have success on the power play, and they're probably going to outshoot the other opponent. But as we saw before, Erie was down in this game 5-1 over Saginaw. The way that they clawed back, you can only give credit to Charlie Burns as he stood on his head for this game, leading the Otters to victory over Saginaw. Now let's move to that Guelph Storm game as they defeated Brampton 6-4 on Brampton's home ice at the CAA Center. This was Brampton's first game ever back playing in Brampton since the Battalion left. So how did this game go? Well, Parker Snellgrove, He scored twice while Cam Allen and Jet Luchenko each had 2 assists. You got to remember that Jet Luchenko, he was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers in the NHL draft, so you only knew that he was going to come up big and strong for this Storm franchise. Parker Snellgrove and Cam Allen. I mean, Cam Allen, we saw a lot of last season and the year before. Just a tremendous performance as they both put up points for this Storm franchise. Leo Serlin, he scored the game-winning goal at the 8:44 marker in the third period. So the Guelph Storm, they were fighting two things. They were fighting on the road for their first preseason game this season, but they were also walking into CAA Center, the first game for the Brampton Steelheads, and they just took it after them, you know? Guelph was not going to back down. I was following the Guelph Storm on their Instagram stories, and I just had a feeling that Guelph had it in them, but it was only just a matter of time until they could pull out the victory. Now, for all you Sarnia Sting fans, Ben Larkin, he had a goal and an assist for Brampton. You got to remember, he was also traded to the Steelheads. So that is a big performance that Brampton was able to pull up. I mean, we knew that Brampton was playing their first game at the CAA Center, but we also knew that Brampton, they were going to put on a show, especially with all the players that they were acquiring in the offseason. So Colin Ellsworth and Zachary Jovanovski turned aside a combined 29 shots for the wins. So pretty much both goaltenders having a chance to play in the crease for the Guelph Storm. And then how'd the shots end? Well, the Guelph Storm, they outshot Brampton 40-33. So a very close but consistent game, I would say. Guelph, they just weren't going to back down. Brampton, I think they were going to put up a fight to the very end, considering that this was just their first preseason game. Something I actually wanted to touch on too about the Brampton Steelheads. In my ranking OHL logos video, I did mention in terms of the Brampton Steelheads, you know, they very well could have just taken a little bit more time to design the overall look of their franchise. I don't know if they're going to change this come regular season or in the future. Who knows how long OHL is going to be in Brampton, to be honest. But the M on the shoulder patches of the jerseys for the Brampton Steelheads, that's the lighthouse, and the M standing for Mississauga. So I'm a little bit curious why Brampton wouldn't change that and make it something of their own. Because we saw when Hamilton moved to Brantford, they were still part of that Hamilton community, but they kind of made it a overall look for their own, putting a B on the shoulder patches with the bear claw coming over it. Where Brampton, I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't take advantage of doing this. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Things might change in the future for the overall look of this team, but in the end, the Brampton Steelheads put up a good fight against Guelph, but Guelph reigning victorious over the Steelheads. Let's go on to that Kingston Frontenacs and Ottawa 67s game now, where the Kingston Frontenacs, they defeated their rivals Ottawa 67s with a score of 5-1. Luke McNamara, he started the scoring with just 2 minutes and 22 seconds into the game, into the first period. Was this obviously going to lead to the Kingston Frontenacs win? Well, you got to remember 1 goal leads, 2 goal leads, even 3 goal leads are never safe in this sport. Overage forward Cedric Gudon, he had 3 assists for Kingston, while Ben Pickle, he had a goal and an assist, and Jacob Battaglia drew for 2 helpers. Ben Pickle, he's very familiar. A lot of you Barrie Colt fans might remember him. I had actually had a question related to Ben Pickle yesterday on one of the OHL groups. And Ben Pickle, he actually played for 2 seasons in the OJHL with the Pickering Panthers and the Trenton Golden Hawks. So apparently he made an appearance with the Kingston Frontenacs yesterday as Ben Pickle. He was able to score one of those goals, as well Jacob Battaglia, he was able to draw 2 for himself. But what was the rest of the game going to look like? Well, Kingston blue liner Emil Panemi, he led all the skaters with 8 shots on goal. Rookie netminer Gavin Betts, he stopped 28 of 29 shots for the Kingston Frontenacs. He stopped 19 shots on the other end of the crease for the Ottawa 67s, as he ended up taking over for Colin McKenzie halfway through the game. Let's head over to Port Hope now, where the Peterborough Petes, they were playing on, well, I guess home ice against the Niagara Ice Dogs, as they defeated Niagara in a shootout multiple goals being scored in this one as Peterborough came out victorious 8-7. Well, this game was actually very back and forth. I was also following this story on Instagram too. Peterborough ended up battling back late on goals, both from Nico Addy and Chase Lefebvre to tie the score at 7. Caden Taylor and Colin Fitzgerald, they scored shootout goals to secure for Peterborough. So obviously they went to a shootout, and these two individuals ended up scoring both of those goals for Peterborough. Lefebvre, he recorded a hat trick yesterday, and he also had an assist for Peterborough, while Aiden Young, he put up 3 assists yesterday. Good for him. Matthew Paris and Alex Athadurians both scored twice, while Mike Glevin collected a goal and 2 assists. This was all for the Niagara Ice Dogs. In net for the Peterborough Petes, Zach Bowen and Mason Johnson. So combined, for all their saves, they stopped 38 shots in total. While on the other end of the ice, Niagara rookie Matthew Humphreys, he stopped 36 shots for the Ice Dogs. So very well contested game. And this obviously went right down to the buzzer because each goalie was just phenomenal in this game. So how did the shots play out for this game? Well, the Niagara Ice Dogs outshot Peterborough 45-44, just one more shot over them. And well, for Niagara, they went 3 out of 8 on the power play. So fairly decent. I mean, you got to remember that these were the two clubs that didn't make the playoffs last season. So obviously, this is just preseason, and these were two clubs that were looking to rebuild and obviously going to rebuild in the future. With just 45 out of 44 shots, give both of these teams credit because this game belonged to both of these clubs. And if this could end in a tie, I bet you it could have. Let's move to the northern rivalry between the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds and the Sudbury Wolves, as the Greyhounds came out over the Wolves victorious 5-2. So the score was actually tied 2-2 at the end of the second. And Sault Ste. Marie, well, they scored 3 unanswered goals in the third to earn that victory for Sault Ste. Marie. Justin Dizzotti, he scored the deciding goal in the opening minute of the third, and that's when Marco Mignosa, he got some insurance short-handed for this Sault Ste. Marie victory. Newcomer Bradley Smith, he had 3 assists for the Greyhounds, so you got to look at these individuals who, they don't have a lot of OHL experience, or they're looking to gain that OHL experience. So when a newcomer like Bradley Smith comes in and puts up 3 assists for these Greyhounds, you gotta think that's probably gonna catch an eye from the Sault Ste. Marie management. Kocha Delic, he actually scored an assist for both of those Sudbury goals, as Sudbury scored 2 of them. Now, for any of you Detroit Red Wing fans, Landon Miller, the prospect of the Red Wings, he stopped 28 of 30 shots for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds to get that victory. So we're seeing every game so far that they're just dominating goaltending performances for all of these franchises. Drew Galton and Finn Marshall, they both made 23 saves combined for Sudbury. Even though they did end up losing the game, they did come out with some pretty remarkable saves for this Wolves franchise. Last but not least, let's move on to the last game of the day. The Kitchener Rangers defeated the Brantford Bulldogs for the third consecutive game in a shootout. Remember, they defeated Erie in day 1, they defeated Saginaw in day 2, and they defeated Brantford in day 3. All those games back to back to back, and all of them being in the shootout. Kitchener, they actually had a 3-0 lead, but the Bulldogs scored 3 goals in the third period to force a shootout. So Kitchener, what can you say about them? I mean, they're just a goal scoring machine team. But you also got to remember that they're facing the Brantford Bulldogs, one of the potential maybe top 5 contending teams of the league coming this season. So still preseason, but just seeing how Kitchener had a 3-0 lead and Brantford was able to bounce back from that and force a shootout, it's just remarkable to see how that all unfolded. Trent Swick, Tanner Lamb, and Luke Alinas all scored in the shootout for Kitchener for the third consecutive shootout win of the weekend, which I think was probably the highlight of this weekend for the preseason. There's actually a game today between the Owen Sound Attack and the Barrie Colts at the Southland Arena. But in terms of the entire long weekend, I would say that every Kitchener game has been the highlight of preseason so far. Not only since all of them have gone to a shootout, but Kitchener's actually come away with the win out of all those three. So just a phenomenal performance by the Rangers overall, and it's going to be exciting to see, what is their next preseason game going to be like? Are we going to see another shootout victory, or are we going to see an even more dominant performance from Kitchener? We'll have to see. So in net for the Kitchener Rangers, Jackson Parsons, he stopped 20 shots for the Rangers to earn that victory, while Ryerson Leanders, obviously who was just acquired from the Steelheads, for Brantford, he stopped 34 shots. So even though Brantford did lose this game, it was only a matter of time that, Brantford was actually going to find some very solid goaltending in their franchise. And we're seeing it from Ryerson Leanders for the Bulldogs just being acquired from Brampton. So just, one of those things that we knew we were going to look out for, and, what to expect from both of these goaltenders in this game. To be honest, I think Brantford probably would have won this game if it wasn't for the Kitchener offense. I mean, the Kitchener offense was phenomenal. I mean, they were obviously the highlight of this long weekend in the OHL for preseason. But I think Brantford, if there was even just a little bit more time on the clock, or if, somehow the Kitchener offense wasn't there, Brantford was obviously going to get this game winner. So credit to both of these clubs, and we're going to have to watch out for these two franchises as we get closer to the regular season. So that's just a little recap of what happened on Sunday afternoon for all of these OHL clubs for preseason. There's only actually one game for Monday night, and it's the Owentown Attack at the Saddleland Arena to face the Barrie Colts. That game starts at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So, what should we expect from that game? Well, we saw that the Barrie Colts put up a dominant performance against the Oshawa Generals on Saturday night. So, what are we going to expect from Owen Sound? We'll have to see. Again, it's only preseason. Coaches are still adjusting their rosters to see how these lineups will progress as these franchises move forward, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens. At the end of next video, I'm going to recap some of the games to expect next weekend, and that's going to be next Friday, and man, we got a lot of them. But until then, be sure to like this video, subscribe, tell your friends, and be sure to tune into this channel weekly so you don't miss any more videos. Thanks, and we'll see you again soon.